Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Robin, which is actually the Infinite Frontier Robin. I still wish they would put the proper naming on the front of the packaging. For those of you who collect mint on card, I imagine you would appreciate it too, rather than just having the root name of every character on the front. That's a side note. This figure is actually much better than previous figures of this variety, like Damien, or other Robins. This one does a lot of things really, really nicely. I know I say this a lot. It's usually the case. Most figures do something well. This one does a lot of things pretty well. It does, however, and I say this a lot too, do some things pretty poorly. Though I want to say, this figure does show me a glimpse of hope for this line. So if you're a little bit hesitant about the DC Multiverse line from McFarlane, this figure might be just what you need to not lose hope yet. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. And this guy stands just, let's say 16 centimeters, not counting a little bit of the hair flip, which is, I think, fair for scaling. It's going to make him about 6 1/4 inches. That's shorter than your average. Let me grab Batman real quick. Oh, I thought I could reach it from where I was sitting. I couldn't. Okay, so there's Batman, like a recent Batman. Obviously, these aren't exactly from the same storyline, at least not as far as I can tell. But he's kind of maybe too tall a little bit, but also not. Like, they did the weird anime proportions thing, which is fair because that's pretty much how this Robin is drawn. So scaling with the other figures is going to be kind of iffy, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. He's definitely shorter. He does have the big, unnatural shaped head and kind of lanky body, but I think it works. I don't have a problem with that at all. Let's do a quick question of the day. How do you feel about this Robin implementing so much gray in his suit, which is normally fairly colorful? I don't mind the idea of having it more tactical looking with the more gray, but I don't care for the way it's designed overall with like the green shoelaces and that kind of thing. It's just, I think it could have been done better. I think it has been done better. In fact, well, I'm not going to get into which Robin is my favorite, but if you want to put down which Robin is your favorite, you can do that. Which one do you prefer? So many jokes I wanted to make, couldn't make them. Okay, let's go ahead and just talk about the aesthetic on this guy. Lots of sculpted detail, sort of. We have that texture going on in his pants. We have it going on in his arms. A little bit of detail going on throughout the rest of the tunic type area. The little clasps and the R logo. It's all sculpted nicely. The shoes are sculpted nicely. The boots, everything going on there. The head is in nice sculpt. The hair is really nicely done. Like that a whole bunch. Let's move on. Well, okay, you know what? There's one more thing about the sculpt. I was going to save this, but we're going to do it now. We're going to get it out of the way. The cape, I don't like the way it's sculpted at all. I don't care so much that it's off to one side because it's relatively small. It's not a big cape. It's not going to destroy the look of the figure or the weight too much by being off to one side. But having it curl around the front, that's a no-go when it comes to being a short one in the way of the arms. When you're making an action figure and you want to have the cape swept this way, you shouldn't do it unless it's all the way down here by the feet. When it's up by the arms, it gets in the way of posability. Or even if you want to have him do a kick or something, having it swing around the front, not a great option, especially since it's so bulky and cumbersome because of the way they sculpted these harsh folds in there. Which I know that's the way the cape is made, but like on this side, you can see it's a lot more flexible and fluid because it's a lot more shallow. Having this here really doesn't serve a purpose. It just makes it harder to pose and harder to balance. Having all of this extra material on this side, not a great idea. Also, the sculpt, it's textured. That's awesome. I like that they added that texture throughout. Same thing up here for the hood. But on the inside of the cape, they did something which is really weird. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera. You get the texture up here, but down here it's very stretched and skewed. It's almost like when they were doing the texturing in the 3D software, they used an alpha rather than like UVs to do the texturing. So I don't know what happened there, but it's on the inside, so it's no big deal. Sculpt work overall, very nice. I like the belt. Overall, I like it a whole bunch. Paintwork, on the other hand, a little bit questionable. If you look at the chest, it's fairly sloppy. It's not awful, and it is painted, but the red line work isn't very good at all. The red lines up here, not great. And then the R logo is rough as heck. Not good. The face, on the other hand, is painted immaculately. The eyes and the domino type mask, really well done. Like, I don't think you could do better. That's really well done. The mouth has a little bit of color for the lips. That's good. They did paint the buckle for the belt and the pouches. That's not great, but it's good enough. Then the line work down here, again, could be better, but it's not bad. So I like the overall look. They did do a good job using the black and yellow combination for the cape. Nothing looks out of place. It's fairly clean. Generally speaking, it looks really good. My biggest gripe, honestly, is that they molded his crotch piece his diaper piece out of the same gray as up here, and it's not. It's his pants. He's wearing black pants with a gray shirt. His crotch shouldn't match his shirt. They screwed that up. It should match his pants. How did that happen? That's really weird. But otherwise, it looks pretty good. Paint could be better, but it's not bad. Sculpt is overall pretty good. I'm going to give this one an aesthetic rating of 8 out of 10. Not too bad at all. For accessories, we do get the fist hand and trigger finger hand that come on him in the package. Everybody knows Robin's known for shooting people, so that makes sense. Unfortunately, we didn't get any of his iconic guns. We only got his sword, which is sculpted well enough. It's a little bit bulky and very warped right out of the package, but it's got a really nice silver paint job. I love that when they add that silver paint on the swords. It's my favorite thing. Luckily, his trigger finger hand does hold the sword pretty nicely, so I'm okay with it, I guess. We do get the immensely valuable DC black plastic display stand and the even more valuable collector card, trading card of the action figure posed in front of a generic background. So accessory wise, 5 out of 10, I guess. That's very generous. Some alternate hands are a necessity at this point because the trigger finger hands are a little bit ridiculous. Okay, let's move on to the articulation. This guy's head is on a... It feels like a double. It could be a wiggly single. That's what she said. I don't know. So it works pretty well. You can lean it to the side nicely. It leans back, not super far because of the hood, but it does lean back and it leans down. You can rotate it, of course. You can rotate it and lean it. Ball pegs are such the way to go for the neck. It's so much better, and they did a really good job on this one. I don't think you could get better range out of it given all the stuff around his neck. So very, very happy with that. For the shoulders, I don't know what we're going to get here. I haven't tried this yet. I do like to leave some things for the review. So if you put a lot of force on it, you can get the arm up. This will flex. I think maybe having a slit back here would have been helpful so that you could raise it without so much pressure on the shoulder piece. But it does work mostly. You can get it up to just about horizontal. Rotation obviously is going to be limited, but you can get it up enough. Not saying it. Sometimes you guys are just going to have to fill it in for yourself. You get the full rotation there, that's fine. I mean, as much as you can, it works. It's just, there's going to be some limitation due to the material. There's nothing they can do about that. Bicep swivel is fine. Double jointed elbow is really nice. They didn't make it all gappy on the underside, so that's pretty cool. I like that. The gloves, or the wrists, you have the ball hinge hidden under the edge of the glove, which is a little bit weird because that's not where the wrist is, but you don't get that much range, so it doesn't really look like his arm is breaking. But the wrist is just under the thumb meat, not all the way back at the end of the glove, so that's a little bit strange. For the torso, I believe there's a hinge. I don't know, I can't tell if it's 2 hinges like they've done in the past or just a ball peg, but it's too loose no matter what it is. Whatever it is, it doesn't hold. This is all hollow and squishy, but it doesn't hold anything, so no idea. Can't tell you what's happening. It feels like it's just a ball or two, because you can rotate it, but I don't know. You can rotate it above the waist though, so you can see the pants, the gray diaper of the pants stays in place and you can rotate everything else, so I like that. You do get some leaning there that'll hold just a little bit, so that's okay. Now this is the thing that made me really happy about this figure, is the hips. They don't have that terrible, terrible design that we've been seeing on pretty much every hip from the start of the line. They didn't do a good job with it. They just used a standard ball peg in a socket. Unfortunately, it just pops right off, like no force at all. I didn't use, like, I know I'm super duper strong and impressive, and it looked like I wasn't trying really hard, even though it took a lot. No, it didn't take any force at all. They just pop right off. There's almost no retention there. So be aware of that. They don't break, and you can pop them back on, but they do pop off, and they're fairly soft, like fairly floppy. They're not super loose, but it definitely could be better. And you would think with a hip like this, which is a good way to do a hip generally, you would have a swivel built in, but they didn't hollow it out at all, so you can't rotate this hip socket. The hard plastic that holds the ball should be able to move freely in the top of that thigh. It can't at all. And the way they designed the ball socket is that such that you can't rotate around that really either, so there's no thigh swivel in there. Pretty disappointing, but the hips do work well enough. Like, he can kick out not completely horizontally, but it's not bad. They go back a little bit, and then out to the side is fine. So yeah, there's definitely some hope here. A ball design is a fine design. They have to tweak it and make it work better, but it's definitely better than that terrible, terrible little Lego hand ratchet that they had going on before. All right, for the knees, here's one thing I like about the knees. They sculpted the back of the knee, which is pretty cool, which means it's a unique part for this figure. You can see the detail on there. That's cool. And it doesn't feature like this giant, oh my gosh, this giant generic cutout on the front. So you don't have this huge like notch on either end. It's just a solid knee joint. It's too much. Like, they didn't need it to be this tall. You can see how thick that gap is right there, how wide the gap is. But it works well, and it's sculpted on both sides. So I'll take it. That's all right. Ankles have a ball hinge, which is okay. The foot doesn't like have a lot of flex to the boot or to the shoe, but you get enough range out of it. The ratchets are still too ratchety, and it makes posing a nightmare. But you do get that, and you get to rotate it around for an ankle rocker, and it works. So that's fine. Toe hinge on this figure. It's not the worst we've seen. It'll definitely do. Like, that's pretty much where you want the hinge to be, and it's not very loose. And it's flush on the bottom, so I like it. This figure did a lot of things a lot better than most of the McFarlane figures. I'm very pleased overall. There's still a lot of work to do, especially for a company that's been like one of the top collectible companies for the last 20 years, but it's definitely better than we've seen, so I'm pretty happy. I'll give the articulation an 8 out of 10 on this guy. That's very generous because of the looseness and issues, but they're going in the right direction, and a lot of it does work very nicely, so I'm happy about that. So final verdict on this release. I'm surprised to say I wasn't expecting it to be that good given the previous Damien figure and other things they've done similar to this type of body. It's definitely got some issues, but it is much better. I'm going to give it a final verdict of 8 out of 10. It's still not great. The torso not working is weird, and some of the issues are weird. The lack of accessories, that's a problem. The trigger finger hand with no gun. Like, okay, I get no guns from DC, fine. That's the worst thing ever. So stop giving everything trigger finger hands. What is that? That's the weirdest thing, considering Robin doesn't use guns. Unless this version does, but generally speaking, he doesn't. And no other DC character really does that keeps coming with gun hands, so it's weird. Okay, so yeah, it's a good release. It's not perfect, but moving in the right direction, so I'm pretty happy. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, you can give it a thumbs up. I would appreciate that. And if you didn't, you can give it a thumbs down. I'd appreciate that too. It helps me to know what you guys are interested in or not, or if you think I'm doing a good job or not. Please don't give a rating based on the figure itself. I didn't make it. Alright, so yeah, new videos almost every single day, and thousands already on the channel, so come back for all of that good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.